The riskiest thing you can do is build your product in private and cross your fingers and hope that people are actually going to want to buy it. I'm going to show you how you can test elements of your product without actually having to build anything. Welcome to Unearth with Shelly Hughes. I'm Shelly Hughes. In this podcast, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of building a profitable, passionate brand. We talk about the wins, losses, and especially lessons learned of what it means to build a business of your dreams. And I want to share a story of a digital product that a client of ours was making. They're actually working on it right now. And as we were talking about, okay, how can we market this product? They kind of were pushing marketing to the side. We're like, well, we have to build it. We have all these questions. We don't know how to price it. We don't know. We're going to have to figure out the unique value proposition, all this stuff. I'm like, wait a second. Why would we push marketing if marketing tactics could clearly answer from a quantitative standpoint the answers to all your questions? What would that do for you? Oh, it would help us build exactly the right product instead of trying to figure out multiple iterations and changing little varieties of it and little variables of it to figure out what is actually going to make people interested in buying this. And that's exactly what we're doing for this client. Instead of guessing, when you educated guessing, you know your market, you know your audience, but a lot of times as business owners, we assume a lot of things, and very few of us actually take the time to do the research it takes to understand exactly what is a product you can build. Is it a pain product or is it a vitamin product? Will this product actually solve a pain point? It's a pain reliever, or is it a vitamin, meaning it just keeps pain from coming? And those are two very different things when we're talking about sales, when we're talking about marketing, and talking about product building and business in general. But it can really help understand, okay, let's make sure that your business is a pain reliever business and not just a vitamin business. And I'm going to go through some of these strategies that we can do later on in this episode, but you can do some of these experiments and not just focus groups, not just stuff like that, before the product is fully built so you can understand how to build it in the first place. Smart founders really use marketing to design the offer, not just promote it after the fact. And so let's talk about why idea first building is a lot of times very dangerous. It happens all the time, but actually, this client was on a past episode of Unearth, and she talked a lot about risk. She looks at risks in different ways. In some decisions you make and some risks you take, some of them, the doors lock behind you. There's no going back. Some decisions you make, some risks you take, the door kind of remains open. So you can make a decision and then quickly backpedal if you decide it's not the right decision. And it's just deciding, okay, what are reversible decisions and what are irreversible decisions? Obviously, you're going to move faster on potentially reversible decisions versus irreversible decisions. And so it's very much like building a product before testing. Not 100%, but it's along those same lines. If you build a product before testing it, it locks in a lot of time and it locks in a lot of money in one singular direction that might be going the wrong direction, right? So if two people start at the same point and one is just like 1 degree over this way, if they keep going long enough, they're going to be like hundreds of miles apart, right? So if you don't test things and you have one direction and you put all your time and all your money into this, like maybe 1 degree of separation, you keep going until you test it and until you launch it and then you test it, you might be 100 miles off from where you really should be, right? Yes, you can backpedal, but that time and money don't go away. It's not coming back. And so it also creates this emotional attachment that makes you ignore data. So again, a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we build products that we wish we had. And so it's very egotistical. We build businesses, we build products that solve our problems. And if we have a problem, so does everyone else. And that is very realistic in a lot of cases. But sometimes there's also a lot of ego of like, I know more than this market of what they need than they do. And you can always go back to the Henry Fords of, people called the first cars like the horseless carriages, right? Because that was a whole different level of innovation. Not Henry Ford, but just like the first cars, a whole different level of innovation than something like a product that people are familiar with, right? So if you position market first as the reversible door, you test the story, not the entire build. which is a really great position to be in from a profitability perspective. So you want to test the ladder from idea to really that validated offer. I want to walk you through things that we have done with clients in the past to really help test the offer without really building anything. So there's quantitative data and there's qualitative data. One is obviously problem interviews, right? This is focus groups, this is stakeholder interviews. Many people do this, but it's really talking to 5 to 10 ideal customers and ask what they are already paying for and what they were frustrated with. What do they wish this product had? What doesn't it have? What is frustrating you about, what you're currently using, if you're using anything to solve this pain point? That's more qualitative, right? And so we have an idea of the direction we want to go. And here's the thing, I'm giving you like the playbook. Like you can take this and run with it, and honestly, you don't need us. You want to do it right? We can certainly help you. But I'm like, this is no filter. This is exactly what we do for clients. You can do this for book titles. You can do this for anything. Then what we do is we run a few boosted social media posts. You don't have to put a lot of money behind it. You really don't. And each social media post can answer a question that you have. So it can be around pricing. It can be around unique value proposition, messaging. Then you can kind of see what post gets the most clicks, right? In this very niche target demographic that you're going after. That in itself can really support understanding, okay, this is the popularity for each of these different items. You can do the same thing for books. Let's just say you're writing a book and you're trying to figure out what the book title should be. You can do the same exact thing. Let's say you have 10 different book titles. You can run a digital ad for each one of those book titles, and you can see which book titles get the most clicks. Then one layer beyond that, okay, you have to click to something, right? And what we can do is build kind of a ad and landing page smoke test, right? So each of these book titles has to go somewhere. So we would build landing pages for each of those book titles, for each of those ads, and it would essentially be a wait list, right? It would talk about the book a little bit, but it would say, put your email in here to be on the wait list. Or like an early access CTA, whatever it is. And what's so cool about that whole infrastructure, again, going back to the book title analogy, is one, you get to understand what book title is going to sell the most without even writing a book. You don't even have to write the book yet, right? What book title is going to sell the most? Then you'll be able to understand, okay, who are my warm leads? Who are the people? You already have a list of essentially people wanting this book, right? So you have those emails in your database that when you do write the book, you can say, hey, your book is ready. Another thing you can do is, you can say, okay, what should be your second book, right? What's the title of your second book? Whether you're testing titles with the same topic or different topics, whatever, you can say, okay, what's the second book concept that people really want to read? And so you have all these people on a wait list, and you can then, most likely, if you chose a book title, or you chose a book concept, you have content about that concept. So let's say you're writing a book on goats, but you also see a lot of people want you to write a book about cats because those are the different concepts that you ran these ads on. The majority of people wanted to hear about goats, but the second highest amount of people wanted to learn about cats. You can segment that audience that wants to learn about cats. You can segment information about cats just to them. And so they're still within your ecosystem. They still can buy from you in some way or engage with your content in some way, but you have so much more data because you know exactly what they're interested in. So what you're doing is buying information, not just clicks, like typical digital advertising strategies. So how deep to invest before launch? This is always a question. So how much are we going to spend before this product even exists? You can put $300 behind an ad. It depends on what you want to price the product for, right? You have to figure out what is your R&D for this product. You have to kind of stop asking what's the cheapest way to test and start asking what is the cheapest way to get a confident answer. That is really what our goal is here. And then when you think about time investment, it could take us, if we're really strategic and only really changing one variable at a time or A/B testing, it might only take us, if we're really, really clear on the target audience, it might only take us 2 weeks to get a really definitive answer on a lot of these things. And so, your time spent talking to real humans, working with a team that can really get you some of these answers often matters more than what ad spend will actually cost you. It's worth the price talking to these humans and doing the ad spend than building a product that doesn't have that information. So let's interpret this data like a CMO would, right? You look for things beyond sell, right? You look at which hooks got the most clicks. We can look at which objections showed up in DMs or replies. All this is social listening that we can use to either develop better products or build a better unique value proposition and messaging around your product. And then you can also see where people drop off in the funnel so you can make all that better. A lot of times, a lot of this data will surprise you because, again, as CEOs, a lot of times we're egotistical. Marketing is all about empathy, right? Marketing is all about looking at the data and being a lot of times surprised that it's different than what you thought. And what this can all do is, at a deep level, and sometimes a challenging conversation we have to have is, okay, how do we change the offer to make it something people actually want instead of changing the ad? The ad actually doesn't make a difference. So that's how you really turn a test into a confident launch. And again, we're doing this with clients right now. You pick the winning angle, you clarify who really this is for, and then you can adjust your pricing and promise based on what people respond to. And all this information you can get from this strategy. And then you can tie it back to your brand promise of whatever your brand promise is. And really what my goal is in marketing is to make marketing clear. It's to make it accessible and not secretive. Right? So you can either pay up front in tests or you can pay later down the road in potential regret. You're going to pay either way. I encourage you to pick one idea that maybe you've been sitting on and map a tiny test for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month to see what product are people actually interested in. And I think it will give you some really interesting insights. So thank you for listening. I appreciate it. If you like this podcast, send it to someone who maybe has a business idea, whatever it is. And I would love to see if this is something they'd be interested in. If you like this episode, please rate, review. It really helps us get these podcast episodes into the earbuds of people who need to hear it, really help them grow their businesses. And we'll see you next week.